Welcome, everybody, to this wonderful live event, poetry reading for, sorry, my Zoom is issuing commands. For this wonderful new book in our Poetry Growth and Healing series through University Professors Press. I hope I'm saying this all right. I feel it's been a day. I'm so excited to be here with you all. I am Lisa Sochivaya host. I am on the board of UPP, have written and contributed to some of the poetry series, and I'm super honored to be here with y'all for this wonderful live event. So I just wanted to mention briefly that we have a whole series of books on incorporating poetry into healing and growth. And I became acquainted with this process at a workshop at the Existential Humanistic Institute back in, oh gosh, that was probably like 2013 or something. And there was a conference and Louis Hoffman led a poetry workshop. And it was one of the most touching and transformative experiences that I had. And it really reinvigorated my desire to write poetry again. I used to write really bad poetry when I was younger, and then I went away from it. And that was the invitation and the beckoning to return to that practice. So I'm just glad to be here with you all. Louis, I have some questions that I'd like to, to pose. And the first one is, can you tell me more about the Growth series, what inspired it, and how it's come to fruition?
Well, the Poetry Healing Growth series actually started in the book that this is in some ways a bit of a follow-up to that. And it started, Nathaniel and I were doing a lot of presenting together, and the presenting often was on multiculturalism and diversity. And we noticed that we both tended to use poetry quite a bit as we did this. And so we talked about turning it into a book. And so it was really through some of the presentations that Nathaniel are doing, we're doing a very organic process to that. And that first book, Stay a While, Poetic Narratives on Multiculturalism and Diversity, just was a success beyond what we had imagined it was going to be. And so we started a series, and there's some other books, and it's I think really exciting at this point to circle back to this topic. This is a little bit different than that first book that focused on multiculturalism and diversity, though there's some obvious similar themes to it. But that really was where we got the start. And Daniel, I don't know if you have kind of reflections on that process of how we got this started as well. And Nathaniel's and I both, along with Carol Barrett and Steve Fail and Tom Greening, serve as the series editors for this series as well.
Well, Louis, I think you pretty much nailed it. Yeah, one of the things that I didn't expect was for it to turn into a series and to be how it is as if poetry is very contagious. It's kind of like the Ming theory. You tell a rumor, that rumor just spreads and it becomes like a living organism. And so the starting with Stay a While, this thing has kind of taken off much like a living organism. And even though there's times that Louis and I would declare that we're really burnt out with poetry, we keep going for some reason. It's as if we are infected by it, whereas we can't get rid of it no matter how hard we try. Just when we think that we might put poetry on the back burner, another issue will come up, another social issue, another topic that just grabs us and we can't put it down. And so I'm very grateful. This has been one of the most rewarding aspects of my professional life. And so not just not just without, but also too, as far as me growing as an individual. So it's been a beautiful journey.
Yeah, thanks, Louis and Dr. G. So my next question for y'all is that there's already excuse me, a book about Stay a While, Poetic Narratives on Multiculturalism and Diversity. So how does this book, or why another? Why add this one to the series? What's different? What does this add?
Well, I can say what Stay a While, the hot topic of the day was multiculturalism, particularly multiculturalism competencies. And so that was just the topic, just to get to educate our readers to the aspects of multiculturalism and diversity, just to get people on board, particularly with the milieu in which we were working under, which was a Society for Humanistic Psychology, trying to enlighten them to aspects of diversity that they seemed to refuse even existed. And so that pretty much was the educational piece. But then years later, particularly certainly with our political Z guides, with the thing with CRT, that whole narrative with CRT, a ploy, as it were, to shut down the voices of marginalized people in academia. We just really felt that we needed to take action, and so this book is more from a activist approach than, and so they work hand in hand. And I'm sure there may be a few other books coming after this as trends change.
Yeah, thank you for that. Doctor, do you have a little bit of interference in the background, like music or something? I don't know if you can turn that down, because it just makes it a little bit harder to hear you. But yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Louis.
Yeah, one of the things that Nathaniel and I were talking about and presenting a lot when the first book came out is we were talking a lot about empathy. And I remember clearly one of the places for me that it kind of clicked was I was having a conversation with some family members about issues on multiculturalism. We just were butting heads. And we were debating on this very theoretical level. And then at some point in there decided I'm going to shift and tell a story here. And I shifted and told a story, and the two people I was speaking with, I saw tears in their eyes and them nodding, and it started to recognize that it was different. And this was something that resonated with me with a lot of the work that Nathaniel and I were doing when the poetry was in there. It shifted it from just here in the head to the heart. And when we get to the heart and we listen to the heart of other people's, it started to change. And so that was one of the important aspects of Stay a While. And with the social justice, in some ways, I think we could talk about Stay a While as being some of the softer edges of social justice, when Rising Voices being some of the harder edges, that, looking at, that advocacy and activism and promoting change. And so it's one of the reasons why critical race theory was so important in this book, and also just because of the timing, that a lot of the controversy about critical race theory coming out. But yeah, so I think they're a nice complement to each other in that way, as far as the intentions. As you read the poetry, I don't know that, unless you have an eye for that, you may not always see those different edges, but I think that's also there in the poetry as well.
Great, thank you. So speaking of critical race theory, you discuss critical race theory in the intro of the book. And I'm curious, both of your takes on what makes that relevant to this poetry and where we are culturally right now.
Yeah, I love that, because of course the three of us, Sochi, Nathaniel, and I, we've done a workshop on this and have talked about this quite a bit. And when critical race theory, when all the controversy started happening over it, it was just amazing that it was basically one person's ignorant comment that started all of this controversy over critical race theory. And most people didn't know what it was the day before, and the day after they were on a rampage against it, but it was based on false information. And so, I think there's so many ways that this book embodies critical race theory, and some of the poems I think really embody it. One of the examples that struck me the most is Aliya's poem, "The Journey of Brilliance," because it's, one of the aspects of critical race theory is counter stories, using stories to kind of correct some of these false narratives that have been put out there. And her poem, which you'll get to hear in a little bit, I think is just it's a beautiful and powerful correction around a lot of the misconceptions, and we talked about that some in the introduction to it. But one of the things that we did there was, as a starting point, we went through a couple of the primary books on critical race theory and identified what were the major themes of critical race theory, and we talk about that, and we connect those themes to a lot of poems in the book to try and help really illustrate that, this is what critical race theory is, and this is how poetry can fit with it. But if we could get back past all of these pretty ridiculous false narratives about it, to understand what it is and let ourselves sit with some of the things that critical race theory is trying to do, I think we can see how valuable of a source it can be for illuminating a lot of things that we need to be talking about, discussing, experiencing in culture, and the changes that we need to be pursuing.
Thanks, Louis. Dr. G?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think when this argument of CRT being taught, when it came up, even just the very thought of it, it really hit me deeply, because I was doing the work. I was presenting on multiculturalism and diversity. I was looking at how slavery impacted this nation, and doing the auction block scene, and really just about all of my work has been and still is predicated on multiculturalism and diversity, and certainly social justice. And so it was very personal to me, and that just even the thought to oppress voices of our young people. When you take away someone's voice, you strip them of their entire identity. You strip them of their personage, and this, of course, is what took place in slavery. Before we were stripped naked of our clothing, we were stripped naked of our. They tried to strip us of our voice, and it's so important that we not just lean or accept the white narrative with all of its lies. There is some beauty there, certainly, but beauty comes in the truth, and the truth is the good, the bad, and the ugly. CRT, it talks about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the dismantling of it is to paint a picture that that we live in this white, beautiful world of utopia, so to speak, and what that does, it takes away our voice, and so that's why I felt this book was very important. Not to mention, shortly before the book, I had been doing the work, but then, as Louis mentioned, Aliya's poem, Aliya J'anai. When I saw that, when I heard the words to this piece, and a fire just ignited in me. And I mean, and I say it very humbly, because to see this young African-American woman out there doing the work as best she can, but to come up with a piece so brilliant, a journey to brilliance, it speaks to the fact that we don't have to accept the narrative that we're less than, or accept the stories that that we're that whatever the negative narratives are. So this piece really impacted me, not only because it was brilliant and because it was Aliya, but also too because that's my daughter. And to see this out there, I was just totally moved to tears and inspired to do more work in this. And so this is very, very important work. As Louis mentioned, and I know we don't take up too much time, but as Louis mentioned, the feel, he saw the tears and the head shaking, when something appeals to not just the ears, but appear to your soul, you have to verbalize it. You have to get it out. And so this book allows space for that.
I love that. It reminds me of what you're talking about, of the journey, right? The longest journey you'll ever take, from your head to your heart. And sometimes I feel like poetry is a way to bypass the overthinking and get into the embodiment and the feeling. So thank you for that. So my last question before we jump into the reading is, what do you hope that this book, Rising Voices, will accomplish?
Well, that's
Is that my phone? I'm sorry.
well, that's such a big question in so many ways that, and I was thinking about this earlier today, that with a conversation that was having with my son, and was sharing some with him about just my wife and I's experience of raising a biracial son. And as I was talking with him about that, about the struggles that we had as parents, and thinking about how do we balance this, wanting to make sure that our three sons know what they need to know to be safe, to recognize the threats that are out there, and also, but yet to also not take away all of their innocence, their ability to really engage the world openly. And that balance, it's such a tough balance, and it's such an unfair balance to ask parents to try to make. It's such an unfair situation for kids to have to deal with. In Stay a While, that's where a lot of the poems that I had in there focused, were they really were all had my sons in mind, and thinking about that, and wanting to be a part of creating a world where no parent has to deal with that struggle of how do we balance awareness that is necessary for safety and preserving, the innocence of a child. So I think that's a big motivation, but I think also wanted to help everyone out there that's doing social justice work to recognize you're not alone. That even if you're in a community, sometimes can feel very, very alone, and a lot of times doing advocacy and activism work can be a very lonely world. And so to comfort, I think, was part of it, but also to inspire people to keep doing this work, because it can beat you up quite a bit. And so to have that inspiration for people to keep them going with this was another aspect. But we don't have, I think, grandiose expectations that this book alone is going to change the world. But hey, if we can be a a little part of it. If we can create some inspiration, some healing, some hope in some places towards that, and then it was worth the hundreds of hours that we put in on getting this book together and out.
Wow, Louis. What resonated with me with everything you said was you mentioned the word healing on a couple of occasions. My hope for this book is just that it would heal. As I sit here in this forum tonight, I'm gonna be completely vulnerable here. I have been very, very ill, very, very ill. Even if, as I sit here, I'm in excruciating pain and dizziness, and literally trying to hold it together. Earlier, Louis called me and he talked with me, and he asked me would I be able to join, would I be able to come into this meeting? I say, absolutely, absolutely, I'll be there. I say that to say this: I'm dealing with some physical pain and some physical sickness, but the nation that we live in is far sicker than my physical health. And if I could do something to help heal the sickness of racism and the sickness that has impacted our people, and not just Black people, when I say our people, humanity, this sickness, if I can do anything to help that, I think I would do that, even if I'm about to take my last breath, because that's how important it is, and that is why, you know, I mean, it's healing. We live in a very sick world, and I know just by doing this work, it's very therapeutic. Even as I sit here, very uncomfortable, there's a comfort. There's this existential comfort of knowing that we are doing something for the betterment of humanity, and so it's very existential work, and it's very much needed. I don't even know if I answered your question. I got off on a tangent there, but yeah.
That's okay. You know, when you say it's an existential thing, I always go back to Sisyphus, the myth of Sisyphus by Camus, and talks about the task of rolling the boulder uphill for eternity, right? You roll it uphill and it just rolls back down, and you start over, roll it back up. And it feels like that in some ways, that maybe we'll continue to roll the boulder uphill, and maybe it'll roll back down and we'll have to keep doing it. But the last line of Camus' take on this is that with the work, right, that Sisyphus is able to find meaning in the work, and the strength that his shoulders develop, and his body becomes stronger, and his mind becomes focused, his skin becomes tan, all of these things. And that happens in the process of doing this repetitive task. And the last line is, one must imagine Sisyphus happy. And that's the place where I land with this work, that sometimes it feels like rolling a boulder uphill, and then it just goes back and it feels like we're starting all over again. But that existential meaning of trying to understand the perks and the benefits of putting in all of this work, hopefully it's paying off in some ways. So thank you for that take. So let's go ahead and jump into the readings then. So we're going to start off with TS. Thank you for being here, TS. I'm excited to hear your work.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for sharing time with us. I'm now going to present my piece from an Elegy 2. Children, go where I send thee. How shall I send thee? I will send thee one by one, For one was a little bitty baby wrapped in swaddling clothing, lying in a manger. Born, born, oh, born in Bethlehem. I am from the wanting need to just be. From my grandfather's last breath at the supremic hands of racism, my nana's grasp for the future, my mother's pluck for life, and other strong femmes who concede their power to weaken patriarchal beliefs, shattered homes, scaffolded hope, and desired structure. I am from a lexicon of emotional illiteracy. From a Baptist, a Catholic, and a soul baptized in the blood of erasure, where love is speculative fiction and heartbreak historically self-help. I am from the wanting need to discover, from understanding that family isn't a monolith journeying free and fixed yet. I am from that midnight train to Georgia. The Black Southern Barbecues Union against Northern ideation, spices old and new and unseen. I am from aspirations, private schooled and public gardens, and jerseyed in the desperate need to breathe. I am from the wanton need to feel, from epigenetic dreams that salve the temporal monotony, the nightmares, the joy, and the lust from the unfamiliar. I am from the me I see when no one is watching. From homeland stolen to profit oppression, from unsuited expectations, from the me unraveled. I am from broken traditions, Moore's lesson for sanity. I am from obligations and fear, and rubber and glue and elastic edges. And I am from the sharp end of the spear, from Oya, the protective goddess to Gullah, the islands of my legacy. And I am from the wanton need to stand despite, to yonder past plank politics, to handsome and beauty unencumbered. I am from the wanton need to just be. Thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Okay, so next up in our lineup is Dr. Joy Hoffman.
Sorry, wrong button. So I wrote the poem Evolve, and you can interpret the title any way you want it. I think that's the joy of poetry, how it resonates with you. But I think for me, specifically as someone who is grounded in this work, I believe in people's capacity to evolve, and maybe that's naive at times, but I think it's what gives me hope, is that people are capable of evolving. I've watched people in my life evolve over time. And so I think that's what, even with all the stuff that happens, and the anger and the emotion that I feel, I'm always still grounded in hope. So it is convenient to call me your Asian friend, your Asian family member, the child you saved, but I am not your justification. Stop telling your friends about me, how you don't see my skin, my eyes, my hair, my life. I am not your color blindness. When I speak loudly, assertively, confidently, your discomfort and anger prove that I am not your model minority. You stare, glare, and act like I'm your worst nightmare. But you still won't wear your mask. I am not a virus. You fear me out of ignorance, generational hate, and lies your teachers told you. I am not that history lesson. You value what you can exotify and dream of control and pleasure. You think it's a compliment. I am not your fetishization. You ask me where I'm from and won't accept my answer until it fits your assumption. I am not your ignorance. You recruit me because I'm brown, ask for impossible outcomes, then blame me for your insidious culture. I am not your scapegoat. You put me against my siblings, Black and brown, and embolden a zero-sum game. I am not your wedge. I am the strength of my ancestors, the joy of community, the power of solidarity, the healing in my soul, and compassion of my heart. After the grief, the fear, the rage, and exhaustion, I am always, quite surprisingly, hopeful. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm getting emotional here, y'all. I wasn't planning to be emotional, but I'm getting emotional. Next up, we have Frederick.
Okay, I'm going to read A Bright White Light, and it reflects on the recent time when Brexit was a big deal, and we were all wondering what was going to happen with it. Now we know. So in the light of what's going on all over the world today, with the Ukrainian invasion, with the war there, with the absolutely inspiring fight by the people defending their country. So a bright white light is what we can cast on maybe that moment. Brexit wins, markets roil, Trump rolls with the wind and fans the flames of righteous change to make America a great bonfire of resentments and spite. The UK and the USA marching backward to the promised land of lurid dreams of a master race, a woman's place, an Eden restored, a plantation renewed, a nightmare's birth. In the lands of white hands and pale vision. That's it.
Thank you. Very powerful. Thank you so much. Next up, we have one of my favorite poets on the panel, Aliya. Had the pleasure of knowing you for a while, and I'm excited to hear your poem. Louis, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm gonna click on the share screen here. Yeah, and I think Nathaniel is gonna say a couple of words here too, but hopefully this will come up. And I just wanted to say a little bit of with this as well too, because while there's so many poems that I loved and brought me to tears as going through this and preparing for this book, I would say that this is maybe my favorite of the many poems that we have tonight. or that we have in the book. Not to diminish any of them because they're powerful, but this one just when Nathaniel first shared it with me, I think a couple of years ago, it just really impacted me. Nathaniel, did you want to say something as well there?
Well, I don't want to say too much and embarrass Aliya, but I am very proud of her. She has always been a brilliant child. At age 4, she would be up early in the morning reading the newspaper. But I'm very happy and very proud. And she's now graduate of Chicago State University, recent graduate, and now teaching there, and creative writing. And so this young lady has grown to be, in my eyes, as her dad, not just a scholar, but a lady and a scholar. And I so appreciate her, and I am so proud to feature her work. So with no other ado, Aliya J'anai.
The title of this piece is A Journey of Brilliance. 1619, 1619, read all about it. The first Africans were shipped on a journey. 1619, 1619, 350 Africans were taken from their homes and promised a greater destiny. 1619, 1619, 150 Africans died on the ships. 1619, 1619, only 20 and odd Negroes ever made it. 1619, 1619, the start of 400 years of inequality. 1619, 1619, the start of 400 years of pure monstrosity. 1619, 1619, the start of a different kind of resilience. 1619, 1619, not the start nor the end of our brilliance. 35,000 BC, it was the African people who used the Lobombo bone, which is the oldest mathematical artifact ever known. 5,000 BC, it was the African people who invented the earliest known boat, which they later developed into ships. So Spanish colonies wouldn't have even been able to take us across the ocean if it not for the very ships we built. 4,000 BC, it was the African people who invented the loom for creating textiles for knits. 2630 BC, it was the African people who built the first pyramids. 2052 BC, it was the African people who created the term Seba, which is the origin of philosophy. 2000 BC, it was the African people who transitioned from the Stone Age and began the Iron Age. They changed history between 350 and 550 AD. Antibiotics were used by the Nubians. 800 AD, the first psychiatric hospital was built by the Egyptians. 1100 AD, the ventilator was invented in Egypt. But wait, it doesn't stop there. There's more to it. Through the inventions of African people over centuries, we have math, calendars, maps, architecture, astronomy, navigation, meteorology, and medicine. 1802, Henry Boyd invented the Boyd bedstead. 1819, Benjamin Montgomery invented the steamboat propeller. 1821, Thomas Jennings invented dry cleaning. 1878, Louis Latimer invented the carbon filament for the light bulb Thomas Edison got credit for. 1892, George T. Sampson invented the clothes dryer. In the 20th century, Black people invented the gas furnace, the automatic gear shift, blues and jazz music, the traffic light, folk and rock and roll, the thermostat, the pacemaker, the pencil sharpener, peanut butter, the super soaker. And our people did it all in the midst of slavery, in the midst of oppression, in the midst of lynchings, in the midst of segregation, even in the midst of redlining. So for African people, 1619 may have been the beginning of a new kind of resilience, but our people have always been on a journey of true brilliance.
I will never get tired of hearing that. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so gosh, that was just so good. Y'all are just, this is beautiful. Let's go ahead and move on to Laura.
Hello. I'm going to do my poem, Servant Leadership. Oftentimes, it gets misrepresented, and even then the truth is still, in some ways, circumvented. Imagine that. When followers look up to those who promise to show the way to better days, instead they're left with lies and delays. Why must it be so hard to do what you said, what you promised, without leaving lasting scars? Too many innocent fathers still behind bars, fenced in by a system that was built against them, and yet you wonder why there are echoes and cries, no justice, no peace, it's blood in these streets. How many must perish before the world begins to cherish the lives lost so carelessly? Or is that too much to ask because your privilege gives you a pass? Wake up and smell the reality. Your seniority doesn't justify those fatalities, nor does it stand on any principalities. But you continue to put them in categories. Just a hypocrite, throwing fits until the shoe is on the other foot, and your sons are staring at the barrel of an officer's gun. Then what? Is it their turn to press his luck or be shot down like Chuck? Until you stand up for true change, then it's best to remain in your lane and let the ones fighting for equal rights shine their lights, bright as the morning sun. This is how our freedom begun. It was one man's dream and another man's legacy. Yes, together we shall rewrite history, one day and moment at a time, no longer colorblind. A strong hand holding mine, powerfully combined, united in this servant leadership. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Would it be okay if I asked about the picture and your background?
I didn't have a picture in my background. When I originally wrote the poem, it had a picture on my end, but when I sent the poem in, I didn't have a picture in it. Normally, when I write all of my poems, I do include a picture. I have a second poem in that book as well, which is What If Justice Was Fair? So any poem that I write, I include a picture in. So I just didn't have the picture in the book.
I'm curious about your background on Zoom. There's a young person behind you in your image.
That is me.
Oh, so cute. I kind of want you to do this so I can see your.
Yeah, you can tell it by the eyes, but that's me. Yeah, I'm just,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautiful poem. So we are at Hubert.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Monday. I've been informed that by Dr. Carol Barrett, who was my poetry and healing instructor at Union University and Union Institute University, that you afforded me a place of honor by putting my poem at the very end, allowing me to close out the chapter. So I thank you so very much for that honor. We shall not go back. The last time that the United States Capitol was breached by a hostile element, it was a foreign force. The British Army unleashing its effort to subdue an infant rebel government of a group of upstart colonies thirsting for freedom. The Capitol was burned, democracy was threatened, and our colonial leaders were forced to flee. A war was fought by both slave and free, and together, although facing tremendous disadvantages, with the assistance of foreign allies, they committed their all to the fight. Although sometimes ragged and tattered, tired, hungry, some with frostbitten feet, they vanquished that invading foe, causing them a hasty retreat to their ships to make them take flight. We shall not go back. On January 6, 2021, 207 years after the British sacked and burned the White House in the US Capitol, the United States Capitol was once again breached by a hostile element. This time, citizens of the United States of America, incited to insurrection by a sitting United States president, had as their mission to overturn the confirmation of a legitimate election, the voice of the people, by force. Once again, this shrine of democracy suffered physical damage and lives were needlessly lost. The efforts of those who would have denied the validation of this democratic action also failed, and freedom continues to reign. We shall not go back. We shall not go back by threat of intimidation from any element of force, either foreign or domestic. The covers have been pulled back, and the true threat to democracy for all has been revealed. The ugliness of racial hatred that festered below the surface was given presidential permission to run amok for 4 years and culminated in a crisis on Capitol Hill. And the world witnessed the poster child of democracy stumble. But we shall regain our footing and maintain our nation's course to securing that more perfect, all-inclusive union, relegating none to subservience while affording each an opportunity to advance and achieve, while making a positive contribution to keeping our country on that course. We shall not kowtow to that misguided, hate-filled, prejudice-oriented element that was keep us divided as a people. We will not go back.
Amazing. Thank you. I'm just taken by all the poems tonight. Next in the lineup is Dr. G.
All right. Wow, such powerful pieces. I'm just blown away and fed. So I really appreciate all that I've heard so far. This piece is titled "I Refuse," and I think what prompted this piece was Martin Luther King's invitation for us to be maladjusted to bigotry and racism, and so hence I refuse. I refuse to allow your issues to become my issues. I refuse to allow your bitterness to make me bitter. The cold glare, the lofty stare, that look that tells me how much you care, less about my kind, less about my mind, or what I think and what you'd find if you would let me be. Free me to be me. Allow yourself to give a damn. I refuse to allow the degrading thoughts to make me degrade. I refuse to allow the denigrating messages to make me afraid. Grinding bone, I'm left alone. That Grinch-like smile, I don't belong. To your bougie clique, my skin depict something of a nothing that makes you sick, and you don't know why, but refuse to try to bring yourself to give a damn. I refuse to allow your darkness to strangle my light. I refuse to allow your ugly to extinguish my bright. Isms and schisms is what keeps us from giving to humanity's sake. Is this really living or a way of survival that we should be rivals on the easy road to destruction? Damn, I refuse. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Louis?
Well, this, yeah, I'm almost at a loss for words with all of these poems, and we've got some time now to join together, and so to invite all the panel, if you want to have something to say, can unmute and join in, but just wanted to reflect some. And you know, one thing, just picking up on something that Hubert said, when we put these collections together, the poems that we think about the most, or that we kind of struggle with the most, are the poems that we're going to start and finish with. The first poem in the book and that last poem in the book. The first poem in the book is Aliya's, and the last one is Hubert's. And we want to really set a tone in a lot of ways with those. And you know, just with the opening up, and I'm sure that everyone watching and on here felt this, you know, these poems, not just with their ears, but with their hearts, with all of them. And that's what we're hoping. That I know that for me, after listening to these poems, I feel strengthened. I feel motivated to keep advocating for social justice. And so some of you I've known for a while, and some of you, tonight's the first time that we've met in any type of live forum. But I'm just struck by how connected I feel to all of you right now, and so deeply appreciative for that. So thank all of you for contributing to this book. Thank you for the work that you're doing well beyond this book, and being a part of this just important work. We need more of this type of stuff. I deeply believe can change the world for the better. But with that, we'd just like to invite people to join in with any reflections you have, things that thoughts and things that emerged as you were listening through tonight.
Hubert.
Yeah, go ahead. Feel free to just chime in. Yeah.
Thank you for this opportunity. I just wanted to share with the group the gratification that I feel for my association with this group. Like yourself, Dr. Hoffman, it's rejuvenating. It rejuvenates the spirit, and lets you know that there are those who are like-minded out there, like-minded like yourself, who want a better world, who are willing to sacrifice for a better world, who are willing to do what is necessary. But I also wanted to say, and my classmate Laura, she and I have shared several classes at Union, but it's the atmosphere at Union that rejuvenated my poetic soul. I had not written in years until I took creative writing, poetry and healing, and memoir writing. But it reawakened that poet that was sleeping inside and fired that spirit again. It reawakened the voice to stand up against injustice, to shake the world and make it see what's happening. Thank you.
Lovely. Well, so well stated.
Unlike Hubert, I've always, I've been writing poetry since since 6th grade or even more. It's just, I switched my genre to social justice. I write different types of poetry, but I got more so into the social justice type of poems because I felt the world needed a change. There was so much going on in the world, and poetry is a healing source to me. My dissertation is poetry as a healing source. When the silent soul cries out, a leader emerges. So with that being said, I believe that words are powerful. And if you use your words the proper way, you can make change. You just have to use them as a tool to make change. If you don't use them as a tool to make the change you're asking, then the change will never come. So poetry can be looked at as a tool for a betterment in a society that we're looking for. But you have to be able to use your words to help make that change for people to understand what you need. And poetry is being built up now. A lot of people are getting more involved in poetry, and they're looking at it in a different light than what they used to look at it. People used to look at poetry, just read it and say, okay. Now they're seeing different aspects of poetry, and they're liking it. So you have to keep going and push further with poetry, and people are understanding it more than just something to read. It's wonderful. And this book really showed me a lot with all the poems in there. It is a tearjerker, and it's awesome. It is really awesome.
That again was wonderfully said, and it reminded me of two quotes in the book that I just thought I might read quick. This first one is by Hutchins. It says, "Is it possible too that one poet, one pen, one poem can change the world? Has history not already answered this question for us?" And then the second quote, I'm not going to be able to do justice to trying to pronounce the name, so I'll just read the quote with this one, but it's in the introduction for anyone interested. "Poetry means a protest that no one can take away from me, a therapist no money could buy, a story no one else could tell. I think that every poem is a piece of rebellion and activism."
If I may, it allows one to unburden your soul.
Or deep emotional shifts that so often occur, often when writing, and but also often when hearing them at times. And I feel different in my body right now than what I did, an hour and a half ago, and in a very beautiful way. There's a sense of appreciation and a sense of relaxation, and it amazes me that poetry can do that.
We also mustn't forget that poetry is actually journalism. it stands in the gap where like our biases will put us on polar opposites of anything and everything. And that speck of poetry is what brings us all together. So we must remember poetry is journalism.
Wow. I am so appreciative and humbled to be a part of this particular poetry read around rising voices. We've been doing this for a long time, and I've been out in the trenches for a long time, and never have I been in a setting where a third of the participants were Black males. And so I'm so happy, I'm so honored. I'm so happy for everybody being here. I love everyone, and so happy to see everyone. But so oftentimes in this work, I find myself that when I look around the room, I'm the only Black male. And just having my two brothers here, man, y'all fed my soul. It was just, y'all don't even know. I needed it more than I thought I needed it. And it's so therapeutic. So yeah.
I just want to say that this has been like going to church, especially TS when she introduced us. She took us to church and we stayed in church, and everybody had a confession to make. And we're closing out. We're going to have some closing comments and prayers, but it was like church, and it is always good to get together and celebrate in church. So thank you all, because it is a religious experience.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Anyone else want to share before we wrap up here?
Louis, I'm with you. I feel different in my body. And it speaks to the healing nature of poetry. And I think when Joy read her poem, I didn't just hear it, but I felt it. It resonated with my soul. It didn't just touch my ears, and it wasn't a cognitive processing, but it was something in my soul that I stood in solidarity with. I'm not your whatever. I'm not your other. I'm not what, all these things that you make me out to be. Don't make me that. And so I just, so I didn't just hear it, but I felt it. And with all of the poetry, it just so fed my soul. And so I'm very grateful to everyone who participated.
I came into tonight feeling just had a really long day. It's been like a long couple of years. It was just so nourishing. It really was. Thank you all for sharing and for being here, and just allowing us all to witness and be a part of this beautiful experience. Thank you.
A question, if I may.
Yes.
Does this occur very often? The readings, do they occur often?
We've done some different ones during the year, particularly a lot of times in April, which is National Poetry Month. But we all do them when the books are released. We've started this more recently. So, but hopefully there'll be more, because these I find these to be just so important and so valuable, that to have the space to read, to feel, to share, and then also the impact of those that get to watch. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. And again, thank you for everyone for joining. we do hope those of you that are watching this either live or that watch the recordings that you'll consider buying a copy. That we do believe it's a valuable book that can help make a difference in the world, and that's why we did this. We wouldn't have done this otherwise. There is a selfish aspect to it that getting to read all these poems and put them together is a wonderful thing, but it's also a tremendous amount of work, and we do it because we believe in the power of poetry to change the world. And you know, when I get to listen to things like tonight, it just really reaffirms that. So thank you everyone for reaffirming some belief in humanity, which, boy, now's a time when that's sure needed. It's easy to question that right now, and but also just that belief in poetry. So the book is available through University Professors Press, and we do always encourage people, you know, not just with these books, not just with University Professors Press books, but in general, if you really want to support the authors, the editors, and the publishers that put out things, try and buy it directly from the publisher when you can, because a lot of these big conglomerates take a very big portion of it. If you can't do that, consider buying it from a small bookstore when you can, because that does make a difference when you purchase it in those ways to support these the people that are putting out things like this. But it's also available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and available in ebook as well if you prefer that format. So again, thank you everyone. Thank you, Sochi, for guiding us through this. Everyone for contributing, and I hope that we'll be able to do one of these again with many of you involved. So thank you.
One quick question. Hubert and Laura mentioned Union University. Where is Union University?
It's in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
We're both in the doctoral program.
Nearing the end of the tunnel, and we know it's not a train.
Right.
Well, I just want to celebrate this for a moment, that this is one of the most diverse groups we've ever had on a poetry reading, that many of us have defied the odds to be in doctorate programs and master's programs, and some of us are the first of our family and the first of our generation. So I'm just wanting to name that. That's just pretty badass, y'all. That's just pretty badass.
Yes.
You. Thanks, Louis, for putting this together.
Thank you.
One.
Thank you.
Thank you.